probably the worst idea I could ever tell somebody who's young to do. Don't see somebody else do something sketchy and think that you should also do something sketchy too. All right, guys, giveaway time. Now, I have been planning a trip to Scotland, which kept getting bumped off because of coronavirus for a long time. It's probably 2 years delayed. However, we're going next week, and I wish I was more on top of these giveaways. I got to get a full-time editor in here, but we got a t-shirt offer for you. I've got 2 different t-shirts, and I understand last-minute travel is not easy for most people. So if you get t-shirts, every t-shirt's going to get you an entry. There's 2 different styles. Pick whatever you want. Pick both. It's completely up to you. If you win, I'm going to fly you to Scotland. You're going to get a rental car. You're going to get your own room. You're going to ideally be old enough to drink, which I think in Scotland is probably like 16. We're going to be doing some distillery stuff. We're going to be driving around. We're going to the Glen Eagles. It's going to be a great time. You've seen that at the end of my video for the last 2 years. And if you can't win, because I understand it's next week, if you can't say like, you know what, I'm out of here. It's going to be next Tuesday, landing Wednesday in Edinburgh. If you can't win, I will raffle off your spot and then give you the money for it. So either way, you're going to be a winner. If you can't make it, and I like the t-shirts. These ones are cool. If you can't make it, scoop yourself up some t-shirts. Worst case scenario, I'll auction it off to whoever the highest bidder is, and we'll bring somebody else, and you'll get a couple $1,000 in your pocket for buying a t-shirt. So not a bad gig. Anyway, link right below in the description. Check out superspeedersmerch.com and scoop yourself up some t-shirts. I'm going to be doing a drawing Sunday morning. So it's like 36 hours from now. And then I'll announce the winner. I'll put the winner up in my Instagram stories, or you can just email me and I'll let you know if you won. But I will reach out to you first. So if you don't get an email from me come Sunday morning, guess what? You probably didn't win. But that doesn't mean you're out. If I've got any, as we're getting here, last minute stuff, if I've got any extra spots, if the person doesn't want it, they don't want the money, next thing I'll pull another name. We'll go from there. Check it out, superspeedersmerch.com, right below. Now we're going to talk about Turo, because Turo, a lot of people are reaching out to me, and I'm seeing some pretty risky behavior here with these Turo people. And the most egregious one is somebody who saw somebody else do something reckless, so they also did something reckless too. And Turo is a platform, if you're not familiar with it, where you can rent your own car, right? I got my car. Let me just throw it up there, rent it, make a couple bucks a day, right? It's just sitting around. I'm not using it, whatever the situation may be. But Turo is one of those things where they're taking advantage of people who don't really get economics. And they're providing a platform where they win every which way, right? Like, you put your car up there, you're taking all the risk, right? If the car is worth $100,000 or whatever, if it's a $30,000 car that you sell for $2,000, completely on you. You put 200,000 miles on it. The engine blows, on you. You rented it out. There's no warranty. All of this stuff is the risk to the owner, but that's the risk of a rental company operator. Turo is acting as a platform where it's got no minimal risk, because they're acting as an insurance carrier technically, or they have a contract with you that if they crash your car, they'll give you the money for it. But the whole thing is that they are not taking any of the risk. They're not borrowing money. They own no assets other than office equipment and whatever, but they don't have any of their own cars in the game. They're using your car. And a lot of people are like, hey, what if I go buy, and this guy just asked me, if I buy an R8, would I make money? I get the cool car, I get an R8, and I get to rent it out, and does it make any sense? I was like, well, how much are you going to rent it for? But on Turo, the market is like $350 to $375 a day. To me, I'm not at all interested in that, because that's before Turo takes a cut. So imagine you're making $250 a day, right? And a lot of people, they love to have this like utilization thing in your mind, right? Well, it goes out here, it goes out here, it goes out 30 days a month, $250 times 30 days, and my payment on the car is only like $3,000. I'm killing it. But it doesn't work that way, right? Like it's not so simple. Sometimes the car doesn't go out, or you have to drop the car so low that the price to the price point where it will go out virtually every day. But then you're not really making a lot of money, because you have a lot more wear and tear. You've got a lot more hidden costs coming in the end. And this market now is allowing for this to happen, right? It's allowing for people to be like, oh yeah, I bought the car, sold the car retained its value. They normally don't, right? So this whole market now, is helping prop up Turo. But on the other end, when this market bottoms out, all these guys with 90,000 mile cars that are a year or two old, the depreciation is going to become real, and you're going to have to realize that. So when I was looking on Turo's thing, I was like researching it. Let's finish up on the R8 first. The Supra that I rented, like a R8 to Supra. The Supra that I rented in California was $120 a day. That just gives you context of the market rate. If a exotic car rental company, a company with overhead, garaging expense, staffing expense, everything like that, if that company exists, then you can't charge $120 a day for a Supra. It just doesn't work. You have to get utilization up, and you're never going to get utilization up beyond, say, 20 days a month, right? And what do I mean by that? Utilization is the amount of times that the car goes out during the month. Say you have 30 days in the month on average. The car is going to go out a maximum of 20, even in peak season. Because say you rent, because it's impossible to sandwich these customers in there. Say you want to rent it out from the 1st to the 2nd, right? Somebody's like, all right, I'll take it 2 o'clock on the 1st, return at 2 o'clock on the 2nd. So that's 1 day, but 2 calendar days. Then you got to get somebody else to take it after 2 o'clock. So maybe they take it at 5 o'clock. You're losing a chunk. All of this, and you start snowballing. Inside a week, you may only get 3 or 4 days of utilization, depending on how tightly you're able to pack it. But then you also have all the logistics involved in that, the turning around, somebody taking it for 5 days, and then nobody wants that like random 1 day here or there. So the car will end up sitting. So just assume peak utilization that you would ever use for any thing would be 20 days a month. If it's a garbage car, like if it's a $5,000 car that you bought and you just rent it for $30 a day, that's probably the best play, because now people are going to take it for like a month at a time, right? They're going to take it for a month for $900. You get 12 months out of that. You're making 11 grand a year off of a $5,000 car, which is worth $4,000 when you're done with it. You're going to have maintenance expenses potentially. You're going to have like a lower expectation from your customer base. All of that is good. I think Turo lives for people with crap cars renting them out, because the depreciation is already gone. The maintenance, it's a Kia Forte or something like that. That stuff makes it a believable and a usable business model. And even renting it for $30 a day, you're only netting 20. And Turo, and I want to pull up the website. So you wait right there. Oh, I'm not going to pull up the website because my computer's underneath that. Turo had something in there that was like, hey, by the way, here's some success stories, right? You got one car, you can make $5,000 a year if you have a car that's between like $25,000 and $35,000. All right, but then you read the fine print. It's like, well, based off of people that have at least 2 cars and they're worth the same thing. So this guy's got $70,000 worth of cars making 10 grand a year, right? Doesn't sound bad. But it doesn't also, asterisk, doesn't include insurance expense, doesn't include maintenance expense, doesn't include depreciation. Depreciation is what your car is worth after you're done with it. Depreciation, or then you also have insurance expense, which you should carry. Most people won't. And then you also have the cost of borrowing. And this is where Turo is pretty funny, because this person is now making, what did it say, $5,000 a year. So $10,000 a year off of $70,000. They're making $10,000 a year, but that's before insurance. Just say $2,000. You're lying to them. You're not telling them you're renting it, but $2,000 for insurance. So now 10 is down to 8. Then you have maintenance. Maybe you need a set of tires. Maybe you need an oil change here or there. 8 down to 7, right? Okay, 7. Then you have depreciation. You have $70,000 worth of cars. Now depreciation is the value declining on the cars. Right now, cars are doing this, right? They're not supposed to. They usually go down. A good measurement would be 6 years to 0 is a good, what I've learned in my industry over 17 years, is that if you depreciate a car from 6 years to 0, especially if you're going to keep a rental car for 6 years, it's really not going to be worth very much. So your, 60 months, I have to do the math on that one just to be accurate. But just say, just say you're losing about $10,000 a year in depreciation. So now you're making, how much? How much are you making? You're making $7,000. Then you have $10,000 a year in depreciation against the 2 cars, which you're going to realize at the time of sale. This doesn't include titling and taxing, all of that stuff. So now all of this effort and you're going to lose money off of having $70,000 worth of cars. If you had $70,000 in which to invest, I am not using my credit and going on Turo and giving them inventory because they make money every time. You rent it for $30 a day, they get their 10 no matter what. No risk, no overhead. They've got their computing overhead, they got all the marketing expense, but they spread that out among so many people. And then they write a check for a car. If your car gets binned, here's 40 grand, go away. That's a volume game. That's where they're acting sort of as an insurance company, but they're not actually an insurance company. It's in the fine print. But say you took that same $70,000, right? Titan, it's one of my sponsors. They average 10, 12% returns every year. You don't have to do anything. Or any mutual fund. I mean, you take that $70,000, now you're making $7,000 a year, right? 10%. $7,000 a year without doing anything. And that money is then going to multiply and grow. There's no expenses involved. There's not, like, if you're in for the long term, that money is going to go like this. Whereas and you have no effort, right? You don't have to go out and you don't have to check in the car. You don't have to deal with like, oh, customer's coming, customer didn't show up, tracking the car up, my car is missing. You don't have to deal with any of that. And that's the big difference here. And even if you scale it, like there's a guy that I know, and I'm not going to use his name, literally heard somebody else, and this is probably the worst idea I could ever tell somebody who's young to do. Don't see somebody else do something sketchy and think that you should also do something sketchy too. What he's done, and this is because Turo makes it seem like this is going to be a successful enterprise, they go out and they take their credit, right? They go to like 6 different dealerships in one day. And they're like, all right, run a credit, ping, 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 ping. You got good credit, right? You're 21. And they get all the cars. They buy them all because the credit agency's not thinking like, all right, the guy's shopping for a car. So a lot of people are doing. They're not expecting you to buy all 6. So this guy just bought 9 cars in like 3 days. And when it's going to show up on his credit report, this guy couldn't go out and borrow $250,000. Now he's got to have all this overhead, all of this like risk involved, and it's going to potentially fail spectacularly. Now he's like, all right, well, if I've got 1 car making $5,000 a year, then I can get like 10 cars and make $50,000 a year, right? But you also have all this overhead, the magnification of it, and then also the cost of doing this business. Managing 10 cars with one person, you're going to have to hire somebody. You need somebody to help you out. You're going to have to take an Uber here or there. Like, all of this starts to snowball and add up and makes for a very bad idea. But the only people making money now is Turo using everybody else's credit. Now, why are they, and they're really using poor people's credit, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying these people are by any means poor, but they don't have the money to then go buy the cars outright. And if they did have the money, it's a terrible financial decision to spend $250,000 to make $50,000 when $250,000 could easily make $10,000 with zero overhead, $25,000 with zero overhead every year. So it's not a good return on your equity. It's not a good use of your money if you have it. But if you don't have it, you're borrowing all this. Now you're paying interest. You're responsible for all these loans. And these are going to end in some spectacular bankruptcies. And the only way you're doing this is also when you're borrowing this money, you're now lying to your insurance company, telling them you're not renting the car, but you're also out of trust with the bank because you're now renting a car on a personal lease. And you can't do that. It's not how everything works. So if you wanted to get involved in Turo, back to the R8, just to finish that up, at $350 a day for 20 days a month, just say $7,000 a month down to like $5,000, you net $4,500 or $5,000. Plus you have your overhead, plus the cost of carrying the note to carry the loan. Is your delta plus minus $500 or $1,000 a month? I don't know. You get to keep the car. Is that, if that's your only way of getting in the car? Sure, I guess. But now you're going to have a 120,000 mile R8 in 3 years. You're going to have some sort of big maintenance bill. It's just not, it's not the slam dunk that people think it is. And I just want you to be aware of that. So, Rob Ferretti, if you're thinking about doing Turo, if you have a car, you own it outright, like the business model for Turo is cheap cars. $10,000 cars, $15,000 cars, $5,000 cars, because they don't really depreciate. They're fairly reliable. They're already out there, the Kias, the Hondas. When you start trying to get crazier, fancier, going buying and leasing cars and borrowing all this money and tricking credit agencies and everything like that, it's going to end badly. Like, you're going to be living that debit card life because you're not going to be able to get anybody. You're not going to qualify for American Express Blue for students. If anyone thought that it was a good idea, oh yeah, I saw that 22-year-old guy just went out and took 10 car loans. Boom, 10 car loans. That's so cool. Bad. And if he does have money to put down and he's jeopardizing all of his actual money that he had to put down, it's really like, that's like going to Vegas and rolling the dice. Might it work? It may. Is it worth the effort or the risk? Absolutely not. Rob Ferretti, be careful out there. Turo, it works, as I said. It works for some people. The amount of time and effort you're going to put in to make not so much money, you're probably better off doing something else. If you got a car sitting around that you want to make a couple extra bucks on the side, go for it. That's really what it was designed for. It's not designed for you to spawn your businesses off of. And remember, there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of hidden overhead that's going to come in the back end that isn't really, it doesn't exist right now, but businesses go for longer than 6 months, 12 months. So in 3 or 5 years, you're going to find out you are screwed. Rob Ferretti, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in Scotland. Good luck with the t-shirts. I'll catch you next time. If you have any questions, shoot me specific questions, rob@superspeeders.com. And when I say specific questions, not like, can you tell me how you started your business? There's videos on all of that. Give me a specific question saying, I'm having trouble. I'd like to do this. Here's what I've experienced. Do you have any advice? And I'm happy to help. Rob Ferretti, catch you next time.